Do you want to do a trick? Wear your other specs too, and when Manas introduces you, you take one out. I saw you doing that, and I was like, "This is so funny. This is so fucking funny. It'll be like funny in a video." Which one do you want to? Which one do you want to wear? Like,
I want to wear the sunglasses, but if I
yeah, तो sunglasses पीछे कर लो और ये पहले करो. सामने ही 2 मिनट में जब बात करते करते तुम्हारा नाम बोलेगा, you take it off.
दिख रहा है ना पीछे ये बात.
हाँ, एक साथ कर लो. अब समझ में नहीं आएगा उतना.
अब समझ नहीं आ रहा. हाँ, वीडियो में नहीं समझ आएगा शायद.
Yeah, you just have to be cool about it.
And keep looking straight.
Yeah.
ठीक है. चलो, recording is on. क्योंकि टेढ़ा हो रहा है तो दिख रहा है 2 वो जा.
Yeah.
ठीक है, चलो. It's on. Hey everyone, welcome back to Press Start to Play. Game of Fiend का podcast, India's #1 podcast.
Premier podcast.
And talking about अभी के जो important matters हैं from across the world, court cases and all. But to talk about all of that, मैं हूँ मानस, with me Sushir, and साथ में Darren.
What's up guys? Welcome to the stream.
Darren को 2 चश्मे लगे to watch this closely.
Yeah.
सारा ये FTC.
Very close eye on Phil Spencer and Jim Ryan.
Oh my God.
क्या चल रहा है इनका? तो यार सुशीर, टेक अस थ्रू इट. हमने पहले 2 दिन की बात करी थी, काफी लड़ाई हुई वैसे. आई डोंट थिंक फिल स्पेंसर एंड जिम रायन fought as much as you and Ayush did. But
and it's good that Jim Ryan is now out of Ayush is out of the race. He's not here anymore to, for the deposition. He has said कि FTC करे अपना case defend. I don't care. So we're going to go forward with day 3 of the FTC versus Microsoft. Remember, this is not a case about the acquisition itself. This is a preliminary injunction to stop the acquisition. We'll get to know in very few days about what is going to happen, and it's going to be very fast moving after that. So without further ado, let's go on to what has already happened. हम लोग already पता चल गया कि Microsoft wanted to acquire a lot of video game companies. Many of them being, hold on for a second, Bonfire Studios, A44, Counterplay, Dreamhaven, Ember Lab, Face Punch, Fat Shark, Ghost Ship, Hazelight, Heart Machine, Hello Games, Moon Studios, Mundfish.
एकदम सिंगल बैचलर जैसे. कोई भी मिल जाए भाई. ऐसी हालत हो रखी है, मैं कोई भी मिल जाए.
सेगा भी था ना उसमें.
हाँ, कोई तो सेगा तो चला, आई थिंक कुछ प्लान था, बट बाकी तो भाई कोई प्लान, कोई प्रेफरेंस कुछ नहीं. एस मैन, टिट्स मैन नहीं कुछ भाई. कुछ भी दे दो यार.
Just want a pulse.
What the fuck? मैं लिस्ट देख के I was like, man, come on man, क्या हालत है.
ये तो ऐसे लग रहा था लिस्ट देख के कि पल्स नहीं होने से भी चलेगा, but that's okay. But there, one of the things was they wanted to acquire Bungie too, and then Bungie got acquired by, who, and Sega, but Sega remains independent for now, and that's a good thing. So one of the things that we got to know that they wanted to outspend Sony in the business to strengthen Xbox. That was Matt Booty, but apparently they are not pursuing that strategy anymore, or at any point of time. They also took pot shots at Google and Amazon, saying Amazon shows no ability to execute on game content, which is like really bad. I mean, इतना खराब गाली गलौज तो नहीं करना.
सच नहीं बोलना था.
उतना भी सच नहीं बोलना था. खुद के बारे में तो देख लो. I mean, look at yourself.
When you point one finger, 3 are pointed back at you.
Right. Then they sacrificed Xbox Series X sales for long-term ambition in the cloud. That was interesting. But then Manas is giving free fund ka paisa to Xbox, and he got an Xbox recently. I don't want to go more into that, but it's if Microsoft wins the case, you know who funded the lawyers, right? you'll know.
माना से डायरेक्टली पैसे वायर करते लॉयर को उनके.
सिर्फ Xbox Series X ही नहीं, एलीट कंट्रोलर भी लिया है.
एलीट कंट्रोलर भी लिया है
यार. लो भाई, फिल स्पेंसर, अब मैं बोलूंगा मेरा गेम का है. Now I
can 60 FPS का.
Now I can rightfully ask for like, भाई गेम दो मुझे.
Day 3 is starting for us too. There's going to be a Jim Ryan's video deposition. There are going to be 2 people from Nvidia, Jeff Fisher and Phil Eyler, and economic experts have been brought today. Dr. Robin Lee and Dr. Elizabeth Bailey, who's one from FTC and one from Microsoft, and there's a Lori Wright from Xbox who will be in a joint stipulation. So the first thing that happens is that Phil Spencer, one of the first things that got brought up, said in an email to Catherine Gluckstein, said regarding cloud, this is regarding xCloud, said we are exactly like Polaroid. I mean, for the people who are like Darren under the age of 20, who do not know what a Polaroids are, okay.
I own
Darren,
one.
it's a compliment, man. We are supposed to be under the age of 20, not
Yes,
30
I am
plus
under
like
the age
us.
of 20. उसमें क्या बात है?
Yeah. So we are core gaming, which is our core gaming isn't growing. It's analogous to film photographers, while mobile gaming MAU is growing at a significant rate. Like the digital photography was growing at that point of time. जो Nokia ने मतलब tried to outspend them regarding that. We have no strategy to win organically in mobile gaming. I can't come up with one. I mean, of course, it was like a one-on-one thing that was happening, but like once these emails come up, it sounds very bad on Phil Spencer's part. क्योंकि इसके पहले day 2 में he was like Yakuza and Batman like कि हम लोग को exclusive नहीं करने दिया तो खरीद लिया. But yeah, this happened, and the only thing we could do is close all the Xbox stuff, and with the same OPEX try to start a mobile gaming company inside of Microsoft. This is kind of what Bobby Kotick is trying to do at ATVI. So he says that Activision Blizzard King, by acquiring King and everything, they have successfully integrated a mobile company into their whole portfolio, and they are looking to the future into what it should be structured as. So it seems like Xbox thinks like the current gaming market is almost a lot like Polaroid, because more and more number of people are joining the mobile experience. So I'll stop it here. Let's hear your thoughts about that.
I think we are going to see the return of Windows Lumia phones. Candy Crush pre-installed आएगा.
Okay.
ये मुझे समझ नहीं है, मतलब दे सेइंग कि कंसोल स्पेस में फाइट करके फायदा नहीं है, लाइक क्लाउड इज द, ये मोबाइल इज द फ्यूचर.
पैसा नहीं है,
मनी. बट
Yeah.
उन्होंने पैसा बनाया नहीं है, लाइक दे कुडंट मेक मनी. दैट वाज द प्रॉब्लम. उनको तो खर्चना पड़ रहा है. लाइक सोनी तो दिखा रहा है कैसे करना है, लाइक व्हाई नॉट. मतलब दैट इज माय होल थिंग विद लाइक इवन विद दिस स्टेटमेंट की मोबाइल, या श्योर ऑफ कोर्स देयर इज मनी इन मोबाइल, बट like why are you competing, why did you put out a Series X इतना powerful and well designed console? मैंने खरीदा. I like it. And it's obviously capable of a lot. Like it shows कि there was thought and belief put into this console कि ना ये console पे कुछ अच्छे होंगे बढ़िया games, क्योंकि it has those features that good games should come with वाले वो ना quick resume and all of that. Like it's pretty impressive. तो ये outspend, why not outbuild? मतलब I know कि and they kind of saying कि नहीं कर सकते वो तो, and I think in FTC's defense या Sony's defense या even Bobby Kotick के कुछ statements सुन के ऐसा लगेगा like there is no faith in their management वाला वो, क्योंकि so far like they haven't shown good. वो Starfield I'm very excited for, and hopefully it shows some of their good management वाला side also, and the future shows more games. लेकिन ये just जाके going and buying stuff वाला वो I don't know. ये mobile seems like a weird excuse to, I mean of course it makes sense to invest in it, but then they could have just bought King अलग से, but King itself I think would have costed like 50 billion plus, तो King को ही लगता तो साथ में Activision ही ले लो फिर.
Also I think what is happening is that the recent move of certain developers or publishers towards the free to play market or live service element market or the mobile market, like to even hear like a person like Todd Howard say jokingly that our most successful game is Fallout Shelter. I know कहीं ना कहीं उसको भी दुख होता होगा अंदर में.
ये अच्छी बात थोड़ी है.
Skyrim मैंने फ्रिज के लिए भी बेच दिया, but then Fallout Shelter उससे भी ज्यादा बिक रहा है. I think somehow down the line the bottom line is that the mobile segment and the free to play and the live service segment is garnering way more money than what these people previously imagined, and right now the race is to like make sure that they have the right players for that. And it seems
Sushir, just one
thing regarding that with Bungie, I think with the voting rights that Bungie has over all the live service things. Yeah, but go ahead.
नहीं सुशीर, इसमें फिल स्पेंसर ने बोला कि फॉलआउट शेल्टर वाज देयर मोस्ट प्रॉफिटेबल, बट उसका मतलब टॉड ने बोला कि मोस्ट प्रॉफिटेबल ना, बट इसका मतलब ये भी हो सकता है कि लीस्ट अमाउंट वाज इन्वेस्टेड इनटू इट. I mean, this was obviously not a Horizon Forbidden West or a Last of Us 2 की ना like 200-300 million spend किए इस पे.
But in terms of, I think, revenue also, it has made way more money than the other games.
Oh, that I can believe वैसे, but
Yeah.
all
Yeah.
I'm saying is कि मतलब उसमें investment भी कम लगता है, that is a factor.
Yeah.
No, it's like it's that kind of game. Like मुझे लगता है as gamers like are we demanding more of that? Like वो बिक रहे हैं, of course there's a casual audience for it, but वो हम नहीं मांग रहे ना like. And there is, and दूसरी तरफ like obviously Sony के वो games बिक रहे हैं, like they're putting so much money, dude. It's like a Hollywood production वाला money. They're putting that time into it कि ना वो ऐसा quality वो निकाल रहे हैं. And Microsoft ने भी बनाया है वैसे like Forza Horizon, great game. Flight Simulator, like unbelievable game ना. They've made stuff, but like मुझे ऐसा लगता है कि like उनका वो कुछ core franchises kind of lagging behind, like Halo and
Yeah.
Gears and all. Like kind of has, you know, उनका personality is kind of been eroded quite a bit.
I know. But Maras, like one thing that I want to say, like it's not a defense or anything, but when a company like PlayStation sees a game like Genshin Impact, and I'm not trying to belittle Genshin Impact here, I'm
Yeah.
just saying that the thought or the kind of amount of energy that has been put into games like God of War or Last of Us, I don't think it's equivalent. Again, I'm just making a generalization. I might be wrong. I'm completely wrong regarding this, but I think the effort that has gone behind prototyping God of War, the Ragnarok, and Last of Us, and Spider-Man, I think it's way more than what Genshin Impact. The thought has gone into Genshin Impact, but that game alone is making way more money than the entire portfolio of PlayStation, which is mind-boggling. And for people who are in a company like Microsoft or Sony to see that one single product like that is making so much money than whatever effort we have been put behind
Yeah.
is something a bit of a concern. And in the end, I know this is what we gamers want. We want more God of War, less Genshin Impact. But they want money, and they will go to places where there is more money. And that is why no matter how little cautious we might be about currently PlayStation's push for live service, we know that they're doing that because they have to create more streams of revenue streams. And
When you put it that way, then I can totally imagine कि अगर consoles no longer are a thing, like in maybe I think 2 generation बाद तो no way. 2 generation भी बहुत लंबा time है. But तो उस time पे then I think if console selling is not a factor, then cloud है, easy access है, then I can imagine games like Last of Us and God of War not being made, or at least not being made by these studios. I mean that if there's a market for it, तो कोई ना कोई तो बनाएगा वैसा कुछ. But yeah, you're right. Like I said, the whole business model can change if this deal goes through, and if it's actually so much about mobile, then yeah, पूरा business काफी change हो सकता है.
No, but I think the business is already changing, right? What we are seeing is the big players trying to catch up to the change, right? Sony is doing live services now, like spending so much money into these studios and games. Kitna 18 live services games, right? Like so many games. Why? Because they know कि all 18 are not going to succeed.
Right.
They know कि only like maybe there's a slight chance कि one of them will succeed, and that's all that they care about.
Only one is
Only
needed.
one is needed. That's the thing. They just need that one, that even वो अगर half of Genshin Impact का revenue line ना, that makes up for like being that one game.
Right.
Because like you said, right, Genshin Impact was specifically built as this game by MiHoYo, where they knew what they wanted, right? They knew कि it's going to be like a system where an engine where they can just always build upon it, and like the monetization is in such a way where it is a gacha game. It is very clearly a gacha game. The people playing it know it's a gacha game, and they still give it money. Why? Because they want a character, because they like it. You know, if Sony can make one game वैसा, एक, that's it. They've hit their lottery. If Microsoft can make one, like Candy Crush, though, hopefully they are trying to get. If they get that, they are minting money from that. That will probably be reinvested in like the mobile division itself. But if they can make one game like that, they are then sorted to take risks in like other spaces, and that is what they're trying to do. They're trying to catch up to these big, weird to say, behemoths in the industry abhi, because they have lost. They are lagging in one way. Sony is lagging in live service. Xbox is lagging in like the main AAA aspect, and like the aspect of like mobile and microtransactions. Sony also does not have a strong mobile portfolio, right?
Right.
So they both know like the market is mobile dominated now. You can't change it, so you have to catch up to it somehow.
And both of them
they're
are
both
spending
trying
their
it.
money quite
Yeah.
smartly in trying to get these how will I say verticals integrated into their whole system.
Yeah.
But let's move ahead. Xbox's Lori Wright had a video deposition where she had testified back in the Epic versus Apple case 2 years back, and that same testimony was used this time too. And I'm not joking. It's mostly about why same reuse of Huawei, and that's what is there. It's mainly focused on the fact that Nintendo Switch is a competitor to Xbox. And Sony, and they kept trying to push that narrative down.
उस narrative से फायदा क्या है सुशीर? Like who does it benefit and what is that narrative?
Microsoft.
So that time you thought like I was trying to yeah third place.
Oh,
got
the
it.
narrative. Okay, makes sense. ठीक है.
They have to keep acting.
No, I agree. I accept.
Showing vulnerability.
मेरे mind में भी वही सबसे नीचे ही है तू. Don't worry. But you want the biggest company, like one of the biggest publishers in the world, to do what with?
And so what happened is, hold on for a second, back again. PlayStation chief Jim Ryan took the stand. I mean, like virtually. And there was a pre-recorded video because just like Ayush, he was out of the country meeting Kojima. But one of the main opponents, the bombshells that they dropped was that Ryan, he knew that the Microsoft's proposed acquisition wasn't about exclusives. He talked a little about that, and they even dropped, like, he talked about how Call of Duty being exclusive to Xbox can sabotage the PlayStation versions of the game. So all of that became a little bit of a controversial topic. Going ahead, it was like a 70-minute video that he talked. And just like our press start to play videos.
भाई साहब, he turned into a YouTube वो नहीं होते लोग जो Fallout वीडियो बनाते वीडियो ऐसे बनाते हैं Skyrim का Oblivion कैसे 4 घंटे लंबा कौन
I feel personally attacked, Darren. So the FTC asked him about Xbox and asked us like, how has Xbox Generation 9 consoles performed in terms of sales? Or surprise, Ryan said, like us, same, like they have been troubled by supply shortages, but demand for their product is robust, and I mean it's great encouraging words from Jim Ryan. बहुत बढ़िया चल रहा है, बहुत Xbox बिक रहे according to Jim Ryan. But
मानसी इधर एक अभी लिया जिम की बात सुन के
जिम की बात सुन के एक और ले लिया. Then he talked about that how and this was I think a little low blow. He said Xbox games resonate better with customers in the US and outside the country. And the reason is many of the games involve an element of shooting. So I think that's a little dark joke, but yeah, but I think he said that.
He said US and outside the country.
No, Xbox games resonate better with customers in the US than outside the country.
Outside, okay.
Yeah, because many of their games involve an element of shooting. So yeah, which is typically more popular in the US. But yeah, I don't know to talk
Shots
about
fired.
that. Yeah. ठीक है, अभी सिर्फ FTC के बारे में बात कर रहे हैं. We don't want the FBI and CIA behind us. Then he said, then he had a thing. He said he believes that Nintendo is in a different market. He heard Ayush's video that day and he went over there and did the deposition and he said, I think it's a different market altogether. The hardware is much less sophisticated to the PlayStation or Xbox. Its hardware typically retails for a cheaper price and its audience is aimed rather younger. And I was a little worried because the kind of people that I usually find in the playing on a Switch is like older people. जितने भी journalist लोग देखा हूँ, above the age of 30-40, they're all using Switches and but yeah, okay, young people are playing on the Switch rather than the mobile, and that's a good thing to know. Another funny thing happened. Why is it beneficial to have third-party exclusives on PlayStation? He said it's beneficial for third-party developers to sign an exclusivity deal because development efforts required to make that game reduces. The FTC has been arguing that exclusives are bad for competition and that Microsoft purchased Bethesda and kept games like Redfall, Starfield, and the upcoming Indiana Jones off the PS5. When asked about that, he said, I think that pretty much every Bethesda game was multi-platform prior to the acquisition. लोग के खरीदने के पहले every game was multi-platform, but funnily enough, which are the two games again which were
Redfall.
Redfall के पहले
Deathloop
and the Ghostwire Tokyo, right? So yeah, that was a little iffy, but I know Aish is not here today to support them, so I can get along with that.
Oh yeah, they were super exclusive. They're still
नहीं,
Ghostwire is still.
No,
नहीं,
no,
नहीं,
it is
वो
coming.
आ
It is
गए
coming.
गेम पास पे ऑलरेडी है
अच्छा
Yeah.
अच्छा वो day 1
where it belongs. Sorry, नहीं, it's good.
अरे पहले तो oh my god, where it belongs. Okay.
नहीं, अच्छा गेम है.
Sony is wary of sharing the PlayStation 6 info with Microsoft now that uh, if Activision Blizzard King is owned by Microsoft, then it will be like giving a direct competitor access to that information. Our development kit allows developers to have visibility and to work on a feature set that a new consoles will deploy. It will typically mean a developer may bring its content, this and that, and we don't want this leaking to our principal competitor. So that's it's an interesting thing, and it's quite true that things do often get leaked, and PlayStation in the recent years have set their consoles apart with certain features that are not present in other consoles, and that has led to them to get higher sales and stuff like that. But I don't know how such distinguishable features will be in the next console generation, like because how things are going more towards the digital and the cloud market and everything. I don't know how much of a differentiation that might they might be able to offer. Also, Microsoft offered he had a complaint against Phil Spencer that Phil Spencer ने commitment दी, but only about older Activision games. Xbox chief Phil Spencer sent Jim Ryan a commitment list of games that would remain on PlayStation after the proposed Activision Blizzard deal closes. The list included Overwatch, but not Overwatch 2, Darren.
it's the same
मिस
game.
हो जाता.
Phil Spencer likes Overwatch 2. I can understand why that company is going down.
The influence is already there. You can
Yeah.
see it.
And Jim Ryan said it's not a meaningful list, so he didn't like it. And so he was asked by FTC about when did the alarm bell start ringing. He said back in August, Phil Spencer set the alarm bells ringing. Up until that point, Sony hadn't negotiated any access agreement. Microsoft argues that Sony didn't have any initial concerns after the proposal in January. He said, I wasn't particularly happy, but hoped that this was just an opening salvo. And I believe that this transaction is bad for competition. When he was asked whether he had a meeting with Spencer after that, he said, no, but we did have one meeting with the CMA. If you remember who the CMA is. Yeah.
You can watch our video. Impressed.
CMA CMA video. He was asked about Starfield, and he said Jim Ryan was asked if there is anything wrong in Microsoft doing exclusives like Redfall. And funnily enough, he said, I don't like it, but fundamentally, I have no quarrel with it. So good save there, Jim. You were right about avoiding Redfall. He said, what about Starfield? And I don't know. I hope this doesn't sound prescient, but he says, I don't like it, but I don't view it as anti-competitive. So I don't know. Maybe he has played a little bit of Starfield and he's very concerned. He's like 30 FPS नहीं चाहिए मुझे apart from Final Fantasy. So,
But also ये भी news आया था ना, or is it coming further कि there was a point where Starfield might have been a PS5 exclusive.
Oh yeah. But they were negotiating PS5 exclusivity when Microsoft swooped in and got it.
I mean, Microsoft के लिए तो फट गई
That's why
होगी
they
नहीं
bought
सुन
it,
के.
right?
Yeah, that's why they bought it. One of the reasons.
मतलब फिल्स पे सोचा साला कुछ भी नहीं छोड़ा यार, हमसे तो बन नहीं रहा, दूसरों के गेम भी नहीं आ रहे, कोई ग्रोथ का अपॉर्चुनिटी नहीं. आई मीन मस्ट बी अ पैनिकी सिचुएशन. एंड फिर बॉबी कोटिक आके एक्स्ट्रा कट भी मांग रहे हैं.
कह रहा 80-20
मार के रख लिया यार, क्या करेगा वो भी मतलब.
So then it was brought up when back in February 20th, he talked about Ryan saying to Kotick, I don't want a new Call of Duty deal. I just want to block your merger. So Jim Ryan said, yeah, I confirm that happened. But I was just trying to say that the transaction was anti-competitive. And I hoped that the regulators would do their job and block it. So that's a little bit of understanding from Jim Ryan. ऐसे मतलब कोई ब्लॉक करने के लिए नहीं बता रहा था, बोल रहा था कोई और शायद ब्लॉक करेगा. So
मैं कैसे करूंगा.
Yeah. So then Sony hedging against Game Pass. So this was interesting. When asked about the importance of first-party content to fend off competition from Game Pass. He said one of the reasons why we are investing massively in first-party development and publishing is to provide us with an edge against pressure on a historic business model. मतलब जो चलता आया है वैसा चलने देंगे. Having a business model where you own elements from top to the bottom increases your ability to be self-determinant. So Microsoft lawyer asked, do you think it would be better if Microsoft kept Activision games on PlayStation? Ryan said, yes, I do. Microsoft, so you do believe it's in Microsoft's best interests to make Activision games available on multiple platforms? Then Ryan says, no, I don't agree with that. Microsoft lawyer asks, so if you were running Xbox, would you recommend making Call of Duty and other Activision games exclusive to Xbox and PC? Ryan pleaded the fifth, and he said that's a hypothetical question that I don't want to answer.
Oh,
कि
दिल में
मेरे
अभी
पास
पता है।
अगर ऐसा अंधा पैसा रहता तो मैं ये आंसर क्वेश्चन का जवाब नहीं देता.
यार यहाँ पे मुझे लगता है कोर इशू के लिए जैसे इफ प्लेस्टेशन हैड डन इट और इफ माइक्रोसॉफ्ट हैड डन इट उसके बीच में ये है ना कि देयर आर मोर PS4 PS5 यूजर्स आउट देयर, तो इसीलिए यू विल आल्सो सी कि लॉट ऑफ डेवलपर्स में बी एट टाइम्स प्रायोरिटाइजिंग द PS5 वर्जन और व्हाटएवर, इवन दो उतना अपनी होता है PS4 के टाइम पे तो और भी था, और इवन स्किपिंग द Xbox वर्जन और बॉबी कोटिक जैसे ना कि इट्स नॉट वर्थ इट, तुम मुझे और पैसे लाइक यू सी दैट सिचुएशन. अब इट्स द सेम एज कि व्हाई आर पीपल एंग्री अबाउट DLSS नॉट बीइंग इन स्टारफील्ड वाला वो जो फियर है ना कि इधर है द मेजॉरिटी ऑफ द पीपल और द बेटर टेक्नोलॉजी है ना. AMD जाके स्टारफील्ड में वो एक्सक्लूसिविटी खरीद रहा है एंड Xbox जाके कॉल ऑफ ड्यूटी खरीद रहा है. लाइक उसके दोनों के कंपटीटर्स एनवीडिया एंड PS सोनी प्लेस्टेशन, like of it is very clear कि they are the ones winning and doing maybe like doing better in terms of technology right now.
Right.
And that matters कि ना like उनके हाथ में अगर जाना होता I would say I would of course not PS5 का वो, but I have lesser expectations from Microsoft कि ना जो मांग रहा है जो कर रहा है वो खुद ही कह रहे हैं हमसे नहीं हो रहा मैनेज. They're saying no like we are number third, हम third ही हैं, हम third के लिए बने हैं, हम बाकियों को भी लेके आ रहे हैं अपने थर्ड पोजीशन में. Like is that what is the extension of that? लेकिन उन्होंने ये नहीं बताया ना लाइक द विजन क्या है, क्या करने वाले. लाइक ज़्यादा गेमर होंगे वो तो बढ़ते जाएंगे ऑफ कोर्स, विदाउट देम डूइंग एनीथिंग गेमर्स बढ़े. लाइक ऐसा नहीं कि पिछले जनरेशन में गेमर्स कम हो गए कुछ Xbox One के टाइम में, तो आई मीन दे डिडंट हैव टू डू एनीथिंग, तो द थिंग वाज डन, गुड गेम्स वर मेड एंड देयर आर मोर गेमर्स नाउ प्लेइंग देन एवर. तो व्हाई नॉट टॉक अबाउट दैट एज द फ्यूचर. नहीं लाइक उसकी बात नहीं हो रही ना, लाइक दैट इज व्हाट लाइक कंटिन्यूअसली दे आर सेइंग कि नहीं हो पा रहा है, नहीं हो पा रहा है. तो एंड ये भी सुनने को आ रहा है कि आफ्टर दीस मर्जर्स लाइक अ लॉट ऑफ पीपल विल लीव. लाइक जैसे ऑन द अदर हैंड इफ यू हियर फ्रॉम सोनी जो बंजी वाले उसमें दे पेड एक्स्ट्रा टू कीप लाइक है ना लोग जो हैं वो रहे
right.
करके ना. लाइक इसमें न्यूज ऑलरेडी आ रहा है आर्केन से लोग चले गए, एक्टिविजन में सोनी खुद कह रहा है कि ना लॉट ऑफ पीपल विल लीव वाला वो. तो दैट आल्सो देन साउंड्स कि हे लाइक देन व्हाट डिड यू व्हाई देन, बिकॉज अगर आधे से ज्यादा लोग निकल गए कोई इंपॉर्टेंट है ही नहीं, तो इज दैट इवन आर्केन स्टिल और like did you just buy some IPs but we don't want your games, no we wanted Arcane के games. तो yeah anyways go on. Sorry इसका लग रहा है I can't find like a positive side in this.
But I think in terms of like corporations and everything, like even Sony closed down certain companies and everything, and then you know rebranded into different stuff. What I feel is that maybe in the sense of scale, Microsoft is having a particular amount of money that it wants to like get into seriously into video games, like which till now didn't feel that serious, but now they understand that value, and maybe they are trying to do all that. And it's just that I think Microsoft's added competition will also be good for Sony.
That I agree with. And I also think कि मैं totally agree कर रहा हूँ कि Xbox को यही करना पड़ेगा. वो खुद ही बोल रहे हैं कि हमसे नहीं हो पा रहा है, तो maybe this will help. Hey, this may not, मतलब बट है ना लाइक सोनी को ये करने लाइक या आई गेट, मुझे लग रहा है गेमर्स के लिए इज इट गुड लाइक वो लाइक फॉर अस प्लेयर्स ना लाइक आई होप इट इज.
I think I can't say it for like a triple A game since their recent spate has started, but I can say it for at least two games that have benefited immensely after coming in under the Xbox umbrella, and one of them is Psychonauts 2. You know, we talked about the developers talked about how they could add like different parts of the maps, boss fights and stuff, which previously at the Double Fine, the budget that they had, it wasn't possible at all, and it allowed them much more time to polish and finish the game. The same thing happened with the game that they shadow dropped, right?
Hi-Fi Rush.
Hi-Fi Rush. That's the kind of a game. Yeah, that's the game that they the developers wanted to do for some time, and they were not getting the opportunity, and they did that, completed that, and then had the benefit of having it like all done and prepared. Just like, I think that shadow drop was very similar to how Nintendo keeps games under its kitty, like till it's like done really really well and then drops it. And I
Unless it's
think
Metroid 4.
those two things I have seen at least, which has helped the games, but I haven't seen it in a bigger scale for the other games. Like Halo was a bad thing and it didn't come out right, and then Forza and everything. We are not going to talk about that, but I hope Starfield comes out in a better shape than
Yeah,
what
yeah.
people are expecting it to now.
I
Yeah.
think then, like Sushir, I think you're totally right. Now, ऐसे studios like who have a lot of potential, but maybe financially they're struggling, makes a lot of sense कि हाँ they get the support, and Microsoft काफी free hand भी दे रहा है, which is good, है ना? And even Starfield को I totally will agree कि like Microsoft का पैसा help
Mm-hmm.
कि ना extra
Mm-hmm.
year लिया, and of course like hey maybe help them be even more ambitious, which I'm all for. But
Right.
Call of Duty Activision वैसा studio है क्या who needs that? Maybe they do seems to be struggling in some
Mm-hmm.
ways. Hey, Diablo is in a better place, but Overwatch थोड़े मुश्किल में, World of Warcraft का ज़्यादा सुना नहीं है. But Call of Duty is a banger almost every time. कभी-कभी duds होते हैं, but that's still game of like best-selling game of the year वाला material.
Right.
You mentioned something interesting कि Starfield may have benefited from like the extra year and the money Xbox gave them. Initially, PlayStation was trying to get that exclusivity deal, right? So
Yeah.
I feel like either way, Bethesda was probably trying to get a deal
Mm-hmm.
that they could do like this polish, right? First, it was PlayStation who was like trying to fancy them and give them money to do it.
Absolutely,
But
I
then that
agree
would
with
have
that.
100% happened.
Yeah, but let's see it in two terms, and I know we are moving away from that conversation. The first thing is that whether that blanket understanding, whether I'm telling you to delay it, whether Sony would have had that kind of creative control over Bethesda launching their game. I think if it was just money, it would not have been that. I think right now, ownership, since it's now completely Microsoft's or Xbox's, they have that thing where they can say that no, stop it, work for another year, and then we'll talk about the release date. I don't think that Sony would have had that creative control over them, telling them maybe like, okay, we'll send in our people, we'll work in for like 2-3 months, but they are also running up costs, they are also running up things, and it's that understanding between a company which is owned by one and understanding between a company which is getting into an agreement is very different. Uh,
True.
yeah,
Yeah.
As
and
a publisher, Sony would want the product to be out.
right. So, and also the amount of money. I mean, right now, Xbox is way more desperate than to throw whatever amount of money is required onto the slate to make this a hit, because they want this to be like a thing which replaces like Halo. Like they want this to be the icon
Yeah.
for their console, and
Yeah. They have
yeah,
something to prove also, na, which
yeah,
is why I hope they go and prove it. Like,
yeah. So this is a kicker here. Jim Ryan said publishers don't like Game Pass, and he said I talked to all publishers and they unanimously do not like Game Pass because it's value destructive. It's a very commonly held view by publishers. So Microsoft lawyer asked him, so you had no reason to think Mr. Kotick would put Call of Duty on Game Pass if this transaction was not completed? Ryan said correct. He said to investors that he was expecting more than 25 million Xbox Game Pass subscribers, and that's Sony's 50 million PlayStation subscribers during the investor meeting. One thing that I want to point it out, this is separate from the case that was going on. Right after this statement, multiple studios, big and small, came out to defend Xbox Game Pass, which was very weird. We were not seeing it from like a groundswell of people like Manas, who had just bought an Xbox and got
No,
Game Pass,
Game Pass अच्छा है, बहुत
saying
कमाया है.
Game Pass अच्छा है, but developers, and I'll forward this to Obi, and I think he'll be able to put this on screen. Wired
Sushir is
Productions.
पे. अच्छा हाँ, go. This is what I was
Yeah.
about to ask. I'm eating, तो इसलिए I'll keep the camera
Yeah.
up. Go on.
So many of them used the hashtag just saying. So it seemed like they were not talking about what Jim Ryan said. Wired Production says, we love Xbox Game Pass. It looks like a lot of us love Xbox Game Pass. Mike Rose, one of the developers from the people behind Descenders, Hypnospace Outlaw, a smaller indie developer, he said, we have 3 more games coming to Game Pass within the next 18 months. Game Pass has been amazing for us, and we'll keep bringing games to the service as long as Microsoft keeps letting us.
Yeah,
Then there
Sushir,
was
इसमें इस वाले list में is there a studio like who's putting out a game like Hogwarts Legacy? और है ना, और लाइक ऐसे कोई बड़ा स्टूडियो है कि लाइक आई कैन टोटली इमेजिन दीस स्टूडियोज सेइंग ना हु विल आल्सो बेनिफिट अ लॉट फ्रॉम दिस, ऑफ कोर्स दे लाइक गेम पास। अगर मैं मेरा कोई छोटा स्टूडियो होता और मैं गेम बना रहा होता, आई वुड लव ड्यूड गेम, इट्स लाइक सो मच विजिबिलिटी एंड ऑफ कोर्स लाइक अ गारंटी ऑफ मनी फ्रॉम द स्टार्ट। लाइक इज देयर अ बिग स्टूडियो विद लाइक जो बैंगर निकालने वाला हो, इट्स लाइक बेस्ट सेलर ऑफ द ईयर होने वाला कर एनी डे वन गेम पास?
So
He means Sega.
let's all, yeah, only Sega. I
बट
think Sega among
विच
them.
गेम?
No, Sega
No,
talked about the fact that
उनका नया कोई गेम आ रहा है लाइक न्यू आईपी फर्स्टली और लाइक
Yakuza भाई,
no,
Yakuza निकलेगा ना और
oh shit,
Yakuza,
Yakuza
I
8
think, yeah,
direct like
yeah,
उस पे ना, oh good
yeah,
shit,
yeah.
okay.
And
But it
he
will
talked
still
about
sell well on the PlayStation, मतलब वो उनको पता like वहाँ मेरा thought फिर ये शायद ऐसा है कि ना like hey does Xbox have enough users कि उनका anyways उससे ज़्यादा मिलने वाला था पैसा,
right.
like has enough of a paying user base, क्योंकि काफी user base भी used to हो गया with the Game Pass model, तो like because I know कि I'm never going to buy a game on the X, never, like वो मैं श्योर हूँ, क्योंकि जो इसीलिए मैंने upfront like I was totally cool with ना मैं Elite controller लूंगा, like I get the best experience, but the best experience is not paying for the games, it's getting Game Pass.
50
तो मैं
rupees per month.
But
yeah.
Darren, we are laughing about it now, and I do seem it's a little bit funny that Manas is talking about that. But do you understand that many of us haven't like bought music or movies for the last 5 years? Maybe
Yeah.
we all subscribe to Spotify or Apple Music or Netflix or Amazon Prime and everything. I know it's a big. I mean, if you think about it,
Yeah.
last 5 years. And if you like anybody in the in our viewership has bought that, let us know in the comments. We love to know about that. Personally, I haven't bought any music, any movie, anything. Like nope. On the other hand, my going to the theaters, of course, a little bit due to COVID too,
Mm.
has become way lower than before. And
Mm.
most of the content that I'm is through subscriber passes. And
Yeah.
it is becoming a very divisive market right now. But it looks like Microsoft has a head start in this one, and I think it's an interesting idea to think that way. That Manas is saying that we are laughing about it, but he is actually one of the early proponents into the fact that I'm not going to buy a game. I'm going to subscribe to something, and I'm going to use that console for that.
I mean, also the console feels very in a good way कि ना
Made
अभी
for it.
उसका
Yeah.
इंटरफेस वगैरह भी देख के like it feels कि हाँ Game Pass का काफी focus is like it's meant for that, तो मतलब वहाँ पे I think Sega का like कुछ loss नहीं है क्या शायद, maybe they also must have like a business, a
Of course, I
fiduciary
think that they're
responsibility.
profiting quite well.
Yeah.
And also, Shichu Utsami, the CEO of Sega, I think, I hope it's not a mistranslation. He said that Microsoft holds them in higher regard and gives them more respect than Sony or Nintendo, which was like, dil pe lagai baat.
दिल पे लगी बात ये मेरे दिल पे लगी बात ये।
And I was like, oh my god, ज़्यादा respect.
क्या
that's
क्या
like
कर दिया PlayStation और Nintendo ने ऐसे कि Sega
everybody
वाले
in
ऐसे
like
बोल रहे हैं।
Japan or India, that's like everybody wants more respect. So, funny things aside, 11-bit Studios, the people behind Frostpunk and the next upcoming game, Frostpunk 2, they also tweeted that just saying, we love Xbox Game Pass. The person behind Planet of Lana talked about how the importance of Xbox Game Pass at launch being, for the game, good for the game. Then, a big if not a AAA, I don't know what you will call that, Bohemia Interactive.
Arma.
Yeah, Arma, and
Daisy.
Daisy. We'll just like to mention for no particular reason that Bohemia Interactive loves Xbox Game Pass quite a lot. As both a developer and a publisher, we see it as an excellent addition and at the same time a disruption to the classic and established game store model. Last
भाई?
one. Yeah.
उनका कोई गेम है गेम पास पे?
I think Daisy is there on Game Pass, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Is there on
Daisy
Game
is
Pass?
there on Game Pass.
But yeah, also like they're making money like from Microsoft, like इसीलिए
Yeah,
वो-
absolutely.
that's why they वो ये
ज्यादा पैसा बन रहा है तभी
हाँ,
बोल रहे हैं, नहीं
like
तो नहीं
वो
बोलते.
वो ये नहीं कह रहे कि we love Game Pass because it's like great for the industry, gamers के लिए सही है, better games will be made, वो सब नहीं कह रहे. Like
बोल रहे माइक्रोसॉफ्ट पैसे दे रहे हैं उसलिए अच्छा लग रहा है.
अच्छा लग रहा है, क्या दिक्कत है, बोल देंगे.
Yeah, and but whichever way it goes, it just proves that some publishers for the short term like Game Pass right now. I mean, पैसे मिल रहे आ रहे. In the end, it can become like I think Epic is still going on with that in order to
Free
gain
game.
PC store market ground with competition with Valve, and it's like I think it's still like a losing game right now for Epic, but they are throwing a lot of money trying to get that new free game every week. They're trying to
But they
make
have that money. Fortnite में एक महीने में उतना पैसा बन रहा है कि एक साल के गेम्स के लिए. I imagine.
and they're trying to gain those people and everything. but just remember, nothing's a free lunch. पहले उबर भी और दूसरे चीज भी बहुत सारे कूपन और कुछ देते थे, and
Yeah.
then everything went away and now things are
Exactly.
higher. So yeah, that's how
लालच में
capitalism
मत
works.
पड़ो गेम पास के,
Capitalism 101.
फायदा उठाओ लेकिन अपना मत उठने दो.
uh, Funny statement again. Jim Ryan said Xbox beat the PS5 sales for 3 months in 2021.
Oh, not number 3, not number 3,
Not number 3.
not number
But
3.
funnily enough, he also had to add that they had some shipping constraints.
Oh,
So that
but
is
hey,
why.
a
मतलब
win is a win.
कुछ था नहीं
A
उसीलिए
loss
Xbox
is a
ज्यादा
loss.
बिक रहा था.
हाँ.
Yeah, a loss is a loss.
I think this
But
was the same
Xbox सेम ही
time.
बिक रहा था.
I think this is the time when the Series S was just in stores available and
Mhm.
nobody
all
was
of a
buying
sudden.
them.
Yeah. Microsoft ने supplies up करे थे, ऐसा कुछ तो भी था.
Yeah. On cloud gaming, he said PlayStation now had a subscriber base of around 3 million, and he predicted that the cloud gaming won't be a meaningful thing until at least 2025. Cloud technology, gamers will get access between 2025 and 2035. We are making significant investment in cloud in anticipation of it becoming a very meaningful way of how gamers access game content. But here also, I think it's like a, the way you see things, perception. Like right now, PlayStation thinks there is a market in VR, and that's why they went in. And Xbox thinks there is a market for cloud, and they are going in. We'll just see whose bet pays off in the longer run.
But PS
Yeah.
is
It's just-
also in the cloud game, right? PS has PS Now. That
Yeah,
we
but like a
talked about.
significantly smaller chunk
Small,
than yeah. So
I know
in
technology भी
that,
इतना अच्छा नहीं है, मतलब I've heard कि it's not that good. मैं तो
Yeah.
नहीं चला पाया था.
कौन सा?
वो PS Now के
Now.
थ्रू ना. हाँ, Reddit मैंने ट्राई किया था one. It didn't.
But yeah, PS Now तो Indian servers है ही नहीं ना.
हाँ हाँ.
Xbox is in that way they have an advantage because they have Azure servers almost everywhere
Yeah.
globally.
yeah. And then the FTC economic expert Dr. Robin Lee came in, and he again talked about Xbox, PS5. These are high performance consoles, and Nintendo Switch is not. And that conversation ran quite a long time, and people were like, "Oh my God, we're still talking about the Switch." It's like Nintendo के बारे में कोई भूल नहीं पा रहा है. Then he talked about his different models, the share model, the foreclosure model, and everything, depending on how many players who are currently on PlayStation playing Call of Duty and stuff like that, and how many people might move. Then also about exclusivity, he said, my understanding is that for consoles, Microsoft recommended not exclusive, but for subscription services, they recommended exclusivity. ऐसा मॉडल के हिसाब से नहीं बोल रहा है, just his opinion regarding that. He was concerned of Microsoft using Call of Duty to damage PlayStation. So that was it. The CMA का survey का एक mention हुआ, and then of course came the interesting part. We came with back to Dr. Lee, and he was talked about the Microsoft's 10-year offer to Call of Duty on PlayStation. So the lawyer asked, one of the things Sony could do is take a game that was on multiple platforms and pay it only to have on PlayStation. So the lawyer was asking that, and he said, Dr. Lee says, that is my understanding. Do you have a particular example? And then Microsoft lawyer asked, do you know the game Final Fantasy 16? Shout out to Darren. Yeah. Dr. Lee said, yeah, I have heard of the game. Microsoft lawyer asked, do you know that it was on Xbox and the PS5? Dr. Lee said, I don't know what console that was released on. After this exchange, Dr. Lee is asked whether exclusive games are harmful to competition. Dr. Lee admits that exclusivity can have both pro and anti-competitive effects. I mean, अगर एक्सपर्ट से ये बात सुनना पड़े तो मैं भी एक्सपर्ट हूँ, मानस भी एक्सपर्ट है और डायरन भी. So that is why we are doing this podcast. This is fresh start to play. And you are hearing expert opinions where we are both pro and anti-competition. He was asked, will Call of Duty be removed from PlayStation? So he said, I don't agree that it will be on PlayStation for certainty. But it's going to be like, there are a lot of popular games, not just Activision, and there's no way of predicting what's going to be the most popular game. So Judge Cody, the judge, wanted to know whether why Dr. Lee hasn't analyzed Call of Duty separately. So he didn't have an answer to that. So yeah.
कौन किने देखा जिसकी बात हो रही है?
Yeah, I don't know.
बस भाई बस.
Yeah. So hold on for a second. Let's come to the cloud competition. Yes, that's going on. Let's come to the NVIDIA was called.
Oh.
So NVIDIA का Phil Eyler.
GeForce Leaks वाले games कहाँ हैं? Oath के अंदर बोलो.
Yeah. So he said, we have found over time that we get closer and closer to the quality of playing locally. Our cloud gaming servers are more powerful than consoles, so we are able to run higher frame rates and add more visual effects. And in terms of latency improvement, we have improved frame rate from 60 to 120 and now up to 240. So that's like, big thing. The Activision games are now on GeForce Now beta because, did Activision agree to make these games available? The FTC asked. So he said, we worked with a contact at Blizzard. They were supportive of the games being available during beta. And Call of Duty was one of the more popular games on this service. So NVIDIA, the lawyer, when Microsoft lawyer asked him, whether they were happy with the Microsoft agreement, they said that we have already begun working with Microsoft to onboard their first-party titles. So we are confident that we'll solve the concerns there. So they were quite happy regarding that. Then, of course, Microsoft ke own economic expert, because now economic expert are also India versus Pakistan. They was called Dr. Bailey. Elizabeth Bailey was called as a witness. उन्होंने दूसरा ही मतलब वो राग छेड़ रही है. वो बोली कॉल ऑफ ड्यूटी इज नॉट एसेंशियल, क्रिटिकल और अ मस्ट हैव. ये पहला ओपनिंग स्टेटमेंट था. आई मीन आई एग्री.
छी ये गेम क्या है?
क्या है ये बकवास?
ये खेलते हो तुम छी.
Yeah, so she was like, Bailey was completely opposite Dr. Lee, and even the judge had called Call of Duty as a unicorn previously. So I mean, it was very interesting to see that the economic expert is saying like, judge तुम गलत हो, मेरा बात सुनो. And
uninstall कर देगी.
she had a breakdown of the top console game publishing revenue shares. Nintendo with 18.5, EA with 16, Take-Two with 8.4, Sony with 7.5, Activision with 7.4. I know what you're waiting for. Epic Games is 6.1, Ubisoft is 5.1, and then comes at number 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Number 8, Xbox with 4.9.
Amazing.
So
not,
it was in
third.
वो मीम देखा है कि सब कोई लाइन पे खड़ा है, वो लास्ट वाला बंदा ऐसे चबा के ऐसे पूरा फुहारा छोड़ रहा है. I mean, that's Microsoft right now. It's like, I don't care. I mean, कहाँ भी हो.
ये ऊपर पे it was what did he say? Sorry, I forgot.
Nintendo, EA, Take-Two,
and then
yeah.
EA and like just barely below it, and then
Take-Two.
इतना बड़ा gap like
16 के बाद 8.4. Yeah, this Take-Two.
Like,
yeah.
क्या हो रहा है भाई? ये gap क्यों है? What is happening at like EA and Nintendo that they are like so high up there?
FIFA चल रहा है बॉस. 8% का FIFA चल रहा है, but yeah.
इस लिस्ट में Blizzard नहीं है क्या?
इस लिस्ट में Activision है, Blizzard नहीं है.
हाँ, Activision है.
Sony के नीचे 1.1% less.
And where are they like in the list? 8 तो Microsoft है.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5. They are 5th.
Oh, not bad. इसलिए they want to, they can jump up from 8th to 5th at least.
So she said Microsoft is focusing on the mobile gaming for the Activision content. Mobile is the largest, is about 70% of the overall $150 billion gaming market. PC gaming 33 billion, console gaming 28 billion. Xbox is less than 0.5% of mobile gaming revenue. Activision Blizzard is also very small in mobile gaming, but together they will have 3.8% of mobile gaming. So it's an interesting thing to always focus on mobile. I think that's what their lawyers told them, like Call of Duty के बारे में ज़्यादा बात करो कि मोबाइल पे गेम खेलना है, and people will be like, there is no threat from
but
that.
But mobile पे भी तो Call of Duty is massive.
Yeah, but वो तो चाइना कमा रहा है ना. I mean,
अभी आएगा ना Warzone और कमाने इनके लिए.
Then when asked about is Call of Duty an essential game, they said that it's not at all important because gamers play plenty of other games. And in that respect, I think Microsoft is really good. A good percentage of gamers who are playing more than 10 franchises on PlayStation. So PlayStation के बारे में बहुत ज़्यादा research करके आई है. Call of Duty players spend more money, and there are comparisons between Call of Duty and God of War Ragnarok. Both games have been bundled with consoles, and how often a game is played on a first day is a proxy to how important the game is. But she's not aware of different game bundles in different US states, which is like splitting hairs. There's nothing to suggest it's uniquely important. So yeah,
I like how she said people are playing more than 10 franchises on PlayStation, and that's because PlayStation has 10 franchises.
Has 10 franchises. Just like our publisher share, we haven't got to double digits yet. But yeah, that's Day 3 became over and there was a lot of like crying from Microsoft where like, Arey, it's not important, क्यों देख रहे हो इधर and stuff like
मोबाइल
that.
देखो, मोबाइल फोन देखो,
Mobile,
फोन
मेरा mobile देखो.
मोबाइल
And
गेमिंग, क्लाउड गेमिंग देखो.
everybody else like publishers and Nvidia is happy with the money that Microsoft is giving them.
Hmm.
And PlayStation through a video chat, Jim Ryan is like, नहीं ऐसा नहीं हो सकता, ये कतई नहीं करने दूंगा मैं. So day 3 got over and that was like a very interesting day 3 that went on. Lots of stuff happening every day. Day 4 is supposed to kick off with Satya Nadella and Bobby Kotick, but before that we'll give a break.
ये वो कब था यार, when they announced कि Switch पे Minecraft made 4 times more money than Xbox?
I think day 4 या 5 पे था.
उतना wait.
Where they talk about के why Switch is important. Kotick बोला के I do not Switch. I am sorry.
I was going to say about the Switch thing, they should like get the judge to play Witcher 3 on a Switch for like 2 days, 3 days, or on a Xbox play Witcher 3, you know, for 3 days, and then say Achana continue playing on the Switch on your same setup, and tell me if this is the same.
This is the third. Xbox is third place.
Same experience है कि नहीं है?